104.
We're good. It's 104?
Yeah.
All right. You know what? Well, maybe some people will respond right now with whether the audio is good or they're getting some feedback, because I am running a fan in here today because it's brutally hot. It's not too bad in here right now, but if for you guys who got here early and are listening to our usual little back and forth here, let me know if the sound is okay, or do you hear something faint in the background, some vibrating sound in the background, because I am running a fan in here because it is really, really hot. It's 6 o'clock and it's already time to start the show.
Yeah. Do it.
All right.
I'm Jerry Maddox.
And I'm Ryder Maddox in sunny California.
And you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, hosted by Joe Abbate.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on this new episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I mentioned a little bit earlier, let me know if you hear any background noise or if everything is good with the audio. I am running a fan here in Northern California today. It is quite hot, so let me know if the audio is good. Please let me know about that. Susie, how you doing there today, babe?
I'm great.
You great?
Yeah.
Do we have any specials going on tonight?
We are giving away some grips.
Yeah.
Courtesy of
Oh, you got them over there, don't you?
CustomPettyProducts.com.
Right.
You're going to visit them
Yeah.
online at CustomPettyProducts.com.
Do you rehearse it all during the week? I'm not going to get any dinner if I keep this up. Okay, so Susie's all over that, and I'm back here in the studio. And right now I want to thank my sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Preston Petty Products, ReplicaMotorcycleParts.com, Racer X, the International Motocross Museum, Full Circle Racing, and of course my dear friend Mike Chamberlain. And let's not forget George Ackerman and the Moto Barn. George does a lot with not only promoting the Moto Barn, but he does play it forward many, many times with Terry Good and the International Motocross Museum. If you'd like to visit the Moto Barn, they have an open house down there in Ruther Glen, Virginia. There is one coming up again this year. It is in October. Go over there and buy a shirt right now. Really great shirts. They got them in all different colors, long sleeve and short. Thank you, George Ackerman. Of course, I want to thank my brother, Al Roof, for giving support to the show. As always, Fred Hudgens, Derf, thank you, my friend. FastGuyStuff.com, Sean Gomes, getting everybody ready to go, always with cool stickers. Keith Zyberg, running my sticker on the side of his trailer, getting out to all the races and the mini bike shows. And of course, our dear friend, Jerry Maddox, on the road with Clunker. He was at a national last week, never even got home, went directly to the ARMA National this week at Mid-Ohio. Don't forget, if you want to make any kind of contribution to the show, we do take PayPal. You can donate as little or as much as you like, paypal.com. We also have a QR code, the old QR code. You could put your phone right up to the screen, take a picture of that, and that will give you direct access to give us some support here at the show. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. Be sure to get a hold of me, and I will send you a nice brochure, a nice, what do we make? What do you call it? A deck sheet, a presentation. It is something beautiful to behold, and you'll find out why all these guys behind me, whether it's Motion Pro, Vinco, Full Circle, some of them have been with us for 3-4 years now. You know why they're there, guys? Because it works. Advertising works on this show. We used to get excited when we hit 20, 25,000 a week. We're up to over 40,000 a week. I am going to put a snapshot of that up on the up on the website on our Facebook page tomorrow. We're really hitting a lot of people. A lot of people are sharing the show. As I promised you a little bit earlier in the day today, we're going to hear from Keith McCarty, longtime Yamaha employee, Bob Hanna mechanic. He'll be talking to us in a little while in a little pre-recorded message about the International Motocross Museum. Whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, be sure to share the show. Somebody's going to get a set of grips a little bit later on. And just like Susie showed us just a little bit ago. We've got a next time try this segment, and we've been running those for quite a while now. They are, of course, sponsored by Vintco.com. We've got one that we ran a little bit ago, but it's really good, and I thought it might be something that, well, we should run by you again. It's about shock disassembly, having the right tool, and maybe not needing some help in your garage when you go to do this. It's also a great way to not lose any fingers. Check this out.
We're going to be taking a look at a video right now. A lot of guys out there, big Elsinore fans, and the shock to an Elsinore is a lot easier to take apart than you may think. I've got one right here that is together yet, and in the video you're going to see how I've taken off the collar at the top. You could slip off the springs, and well, you'll see it in the video, and I'll give you a little explanation as we're watching that together. Here's the shock. You can see it complete. It's the same on Elsinore's 125s and 250s. What I had done for this picture was I took off the adjuster on the bottom so I could show you how to take off the spring retainer at the top. It's not that easy with the adjuster on the bottom. You may need a spring retainer tool to get it off, or have a friend help you as you push down on that to get the spring off the shock. Once you get it off, well, the pictures speak for themselves. Now, I have another shock here after it's all been taken apart. You may need a special wrench to get off the piece at the bottom, but right now you have a lock nut at the top with your eyelet. You want to take that eyelet off, get the nut loose, and you're going to be able to get this head off. And on there, you're going to have an O-ring, and there's a seal head inside. These things are still available. I got mine from Keith Linus the last time I bought them at OSA Planet. When you pull that shock apart, it is going to have oil in it, so be very, very careful. But as you can see, it's very, very simple to take apart. At that point, you can get your shafts re-hard chromed. You could refinish the bottom, and when it's all done, I would recommend you use AMSOIL shock therapy oil in your suspension. It's really that simple, fellas. It's not that complicated to take apart an Elsinore shock. Not like a Works Performance shock or some of your other more modern shocks where there's nitrogen and other things involved, shim stacks and such. So that's how you take apart a CR 125 or 250 shock from 1974, 75, 76 too, I think.
That was from our sponsor, Vintco. And guess what? That was the wrong video that I actually showed you. And I am feeling quite generous tonight. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run the correct video right now. And this is the one I was telling you about where I tell you how to get a spring off a shock using the right tool. Sorry about that. Here we go again. Take two with the correct video.
On tonight's Next Time Try This segment, I want to talk to you about how to remove a spring from a shock. Now, whether you have to rebuild a pair of shocks, you want to change the spring rate on your bike, or you just want to paint the bodies, whatever it may be, you want to be able to get that spring off so you get it down to looking like this. But that spring has a lot of pressure on it, and maybe sometimes if you're in your shop, you could push down on it while you get one of your friends to pull that retaining collar out, but it's not so safe and it doesn't always work. And depending on if you have a shock that has a very high rate of spring, you might not be able to pull that down with your hands. So I'm going to show you this little tool that I bought this week. It only cost me 30 bucks. I'm going to show you how it works right now. The kit we purchased came in a little box just like this, and I purchased it on a popular auction site. Inside that box, you've got the following items. These two pieces are going to connect to your spring up on the top. These two pieces will connect to this piece on the bottom, which will go on the bottom of your shock this way. They did not supply a bolt and a nut like this, so I just went onto the shelf and got one. So you'd put these two pieces on just like this. These two pieces also have to be put together. Just grab a regular 12 and a 13 millimeter wrench, tighten them up a little bit. Same thing for this one. Get those tightened up a bit. You're going to want to hook this up to your shock spring. Now, this is the first time I'm doing it. I just took it out of the box. Okay, so it's going to look like that. When I tighten these two nuts, it should compress the spring. Let's give that a try. But I could see even doing it by hand, the spring is starting to come down just a little bit. I'm going to turn these nuts evenly, a couple of turns each. Keep it balanced. Keep this pivot point on the bottom straight. And I'm going to turn it this way so you can see the spring, or where the spring retainer cap is right there. You'll be able to see that it is coming down as I tighten these nuts. And I think it's just about down far enough already to where I might be able to get that cap out. And this is about the safest way and the best way you could ever get a spring off of a shock. There you go. We've got it off, got the spring compressed, and we're going to let some pressure back off. Then we can get our tool off the shock, remove the spring. We can continue on with whatever we want to do with our shock. If we want to paint it, whatever kind of service you want to do on your shock, that's how you want to compress the spring and get it off safely. It's not something you could really do without this tool. Well, you saw how that little tool worked. It worked great, and there's really no substitute for it. So next time, try that.
I'm Gary Chamberlain. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abbate.
Vinco, who already has a full line of vintage parts, now has air shocks that are an exact duplicate of the original air shocks so popular in the late 70s. So whether you're looking to build a full racer or museum showpiece, these shocks will give you that incredible 70s look and improve your bike's performance. These new air shocks are fully rebuildable with Vinco rebuild kits, and all shocks are hand assembled in the USA with all new components. Every component is brand new. Just like the originals, our air shocks are adjustable with 2 chambers, high and low pressure, giving you tremendous flexibility for settings of your bike suspension. The Vinco air shocks come fully assembled and ready for installation. Just add air or nitrogen. The kits include the manual and spacers. Visit Vinco.com to check out the air shocks and all that Vinco has to offer to help you get back on track and keep that ride going.
Vinco's running a special this week. They've got some GT80 Mini Enduro from 80 to 82 rod kits and top end kits. It's also for the Chappie as well. Vinco continues making stuff that other people just aren't doing, especially these amazing rod kits that they've been coming up with and top end kits for so many different bikes. They also have a special going on right now. Free priority shipping when you spend over $200. That's Vinco.com. A minute ago when we were playing the video where, the correct video I played, where the shock springs, where we were doing something, how to take off the shock spring, it was Tyler McGregor who asked what was the name of that tool. It's right here. Shock spring compressor. Shock spring compressor. I bought this on eBay. Cost me $30. I think it's available from, I can't think of the name of the company, ATV Parts and Accessories.com in Arizona. Look, go on eBay, you'll see it. Spring compressor. Okay, looks just like that. Tyler McGregor, thanks for buying shirts, supporting the show, and being here every week with us. Next Time Try This segment was brought to you by Vinco. What's up next? What's it worth? Brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Be sure to see Tom McAllister for all of your spokes, nipples, lacing, and showing. Tom McAllister's got it all going on up there at Full Circle Racing. This is, of course, the segment of the show where I encourage you, the viewers at home, to guess how much you think this motorcycle recently sold for. I will tell you that it was sold in New York on July 18th, and it is a 1974 Suzuki TM 250L. Champion is said to have been kept as part of a collection for 30 years by its previous owner before the seller acquired it in 2008 and placed it on display for the next 16 years. Power comes from a 246cc two-stroke single-cylinder engine mated to a 5-speed transmission. The bike features an autograph by the one and only Roger DeCoster. It's right there boldly across the top of the tank. Additional equipment includes a Kickstarter. Well, isn't that nice? A Mikuni carburetor, Suzuki CCI oil injection system is still in place, and an expansion chamber exhaust system with a silencer, as well as the black vinyl solo seat. One thing that's really is great about this bike is that pipe is correct, and so is that silencer, not so easy to find. Anyway, it's got a chrome crossbar handlebar, preloaded adjustable shocks, 21-inch rim in the front, 18 in the back. It does sport Ackerman aluminum rims. This TM is now being offered at no reserve in New York. And I was going over the pictures of this bike, looking at them closely on my computer, which of course you can see a little bit better than on the laptop that I do the show from, or maybe from you watching it at home. It does look like a nice bike. The frame was powder coated. Everything else appears to have been finished correctly. There's the Roger DeCoster autograph. The paint on the tank was nice. The triple clamps were finished correctly. All in all, I felt it was a real nice bike. How much did it go for? I didn't give you a chance to guess. I just brought up the picture that actually showed the price being $8,000. But if you played along at home and you guessed $8,000, well, go get yourself a nice cold beer. You certainly deserved it. The Here's the Problem segment is brought to you by Motion Pro. We'll have a special coming up from Motion Pro in just a minute, and but we've got some questions first. The first one, and I like the way we're doing this now, we're actually getting the questions. We're having people post them on Facebook so we could actually see their name. We could see the question. This one comes in from Mike Conley. What is it that some single shock 82 and 83 Makos have dual control swing arm decals at some, and some others models have the Alpha Control decals on them from the factory? And what Mike is talking about, the decals that are on the side of the swing arm, just like this. And here's one that says dual control, and here's one that says Alpha Control. This is, of course, on the 82 and 83, as Mike mentioned. Now, Mike, I reached out to some of the brain trust among the Mako crowd. That included Gary Kortz down at SoCal Mako. I asked my friend Tony Sikorsky, longtime Mako enthusiast back there in New York. And there was one other guy I asked too. I don't know if it was Paul Griffin or maybe it was Anthony Anatelli. I asked one of them, and they came up with the most unbelievable explanation to this question. And here it is. The 82 has the Alpha Control and the 83 has the dual control. Two different bikes, two different stickers. Now, you may say, Joe, I've seen it the other way. That doesn't make sense to me. European bikes, it's different there. Whether it's a Bultaco, a Mako, a Husqvarna, anything that comes out of Europe, and I've said this before, you show me 275 Huskies or 274 Makos in the crate. Open those crates, brand new from the factory, I'll show you two different bikes. Guaranteed that maybe one of the bikes that you saw had the Alpha Control sticker on it from 83, but it was on an 82, or vice versa. Probably had an 82 sticker on an 83. It isn't like the bikes in Japan. It isn't the way they do things here in America. In Europe, they use up everything until it's gone. You notice that a lot with the Czech bikes too, the CZs, Jawas, and things like that. So there's no real mystery to it, Mike. It's just that the answer is the 82 had the Alpha Control stickers. The 83 had the dual control. I ran across something that I thought was rather interesting on Facebook. And it wasn't a question that was sent in, but I wanted to share it with you because it's a question I have heard in the past, and I thought it was excellent information. So I kind of hijacked it from the one of the Suzuki vintage pages. Anyway, Tony Holbrook says, I found a process that works to clean and whiten the gas cap on my bike. He's talking about a Suzuki RM or TM. This hair product has hydrogen peroxide in it. I brushed the liquid on the part with an old toothbrush, placed the part in a clear Ziploc bag, and let it sit out in the sun in direct sunlight. The UV light will activate it. I'm sure all plastic compounds differ, but my cap took most of the day to get it in this condition. I'd recommend you wear rubber gloves and eye protection as well. And here it is. Here's the way his gas cap looked after he was done. And he had a picture of it before. I didn't get a chance to download it, but this is the stuff that he's talking about. Okay? There it is, Salon Care 40. So get down there to your salon shop or wherever your wife or girlfriend or whomever gets her hair products, get some of this stuff and follow those instructions, and you will be able to get your discolored gas cap from your Suzuki or any other bike that has that whitish or nylon off-white color to it. And yeah, they get stained over the years from the gas, and you should be able to bring it back to its rightful color.
George Wallace has a question.
Who has a question?
George Wallace.
George Wallace, what is it?
Dual is 2 shocks. Alpha is 1 shock.
According to what I've discovered here, the 82 is an Alpha Control. The 83 is a dual control. And if your question is about a single shock, both of those bikes are single shock bikes. The last twin shock Mako was an 81.
Dual shock. He said dual is 2 shocks.
Yes.
Alpha is 1 shock.
No.
No. Okay. You got it, George?
Unless I'm wrong, and dual control is for 2 shocks. But Mike Connolly's question was 82, 83. 82, 83 bikes are single shock bikes. Although it does say dual control. I don't think it means 2 shocks, though. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be. Anyway, that segment is brought to you by Motion Pro. If you go over to Motion Pro at any time, day or night, you can get 20% off everything across the board at Motion Pro except custom-made cables. That's motionpro.com. Don't forget. We have T-shirts here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, black, white, gray. In fact, you can get them in any color you want, in any style you want. Sleeveless tanks, short sleeve, long sleeve, hoodies. Susie will make you a turtleneck if you like. Whatever you want, get a hold of us. They start off at just $19.99. And I'm getting a little signal here from the Suze. She has something to say.
Well, koozies and decals.
Oh, we have koozies and Vintage Motocross Q&A decals, which we just came out with this week, the Q&A decals. So contact us. Any shirt you want starts at $19.99, and you can also get it in any color up to 5X, okay? Oh, yeah, we've got them like this as well. You can get it with a little logo on there, Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, whatever it might be, and Suzuki, until I get the cease and desist order from somebody. But until then, you get the Vintage Motocross Q&A logo across the back, and you can get pretty much whatever logo you would like across the front. A little bit earlier, I mentioned that I had some video from Keith McCarty, Hall of Fame inductee, very famous mechanic for Bob Hanna, Tony DiStefano, amongst others, longtime staple at the Yamaha factory. He did have some things to say about the International Motocross Museum, and I wanted to bring it here on the show tonight, and I got the go-ahead from Terry Good. So for our IMM plug tonight, we're going to be listening to a couple of things that have been said by the one and only Keith McCarty. Just takes me a second to move around here a little bit. There we go.
Museums around the country. The Barber Museum is pretty big, and they have, products over the years. And the AMA Museum, they do their best. But as on the scale of bikes and, specifically motocross, supercross type things, Terry's vision is unique in that it would only be that, and that it would also be international as well. So from the roots of this sport, all the way through today, let's say, he's acquiring bikes and items, things that if anybody wanted to see where this sport came from and where it is today, they'd be able to do that. So, him and Cindy both have been at this for a long time, sacrificing a lot, like he said, for the amount of money and things that he's put into it. And hopefully, the OEMs here in the U.S. and maybe around the world will help him with this vision, and hopefully the fans will too.
I'm Ron Lachine, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Motocross struck America, coming from Europe like a lightning bolt, striking the hearts and minds of people all across the country and the world. Battles of intense racing and cutting rivalries with loyalty to brands and heroes intensified as years of blood, sweat, and dirt flew through the minds of those memories of champions as they wrestled their machines through almost impossible tracks. But where are those past champions? And where are their bikes? Terry Good, an ex-pro motocross racer, has made it his life mission to honor these heroes and the bikes they rode to stardom. We raced, we rode, we lived and breathed motocross. Go back in time and relive those moments, now preserved for the first time ever in the world's first museum dedicated to the history of motocross. Our new building is in the gate. Help us get a great start and you can be part of history. Go to internationalmotocrossmuseum.org and become a part of our team.
The International Motocross Museum is a not-for-profit 501c3 company. Go over there and buy some hats, shirts, posters, whatever you can. We're getting close. We're getting closer every week. And as you probably have seen, there's been some posts on the International Motocross Museum site. Target opening date is mid-2025. I was also, I guess I could say something about this. I was on a little video chat with Terry Good and a couple of other people that are involved in the International Motocross Museum. There will be an event coming up late September, early October. It will most likely be at the building, at the International Motocross Museum building. You will get an invitation if you were a donor or donated either money to the museum, bought some things, contributed bikes. You are going to get an invitation to an event. There is no charge to get in. There'll be food, there'll be drink, there'll be some legendary racers there, and this will be the last time you get to see the bikes up close and personal before the doors swing open on the International Motocross Museum sometime next summer. So you heard it here first. Moto Showcase tonight is brought to you by Preston Petty Products. Be sure to get over to PrestonPettyProducts.com for all these wonderful fenders that we've enjoyed over the years. Now, before I get started with the bike, I do want to tell you there is a special going on for Bultaco Blue front fenders. It happens starting right now up until Saturday. You go over to PrestonPettyProducts.com. You go buy your blue fender, Bultaco Blue, which is normally $52.95. Because you are smart and watch Vintage Motocross Q&A, you will only pay $32.95. That's $20 off. What is the code? VMXQ&A and VMXQ&A hyphen front blue. I'll tell you about that again after we do this segment, but this is for Bultaco Blue fenders in the front, $20 off. Tomorrow, when you go on the page, I'm going to have another special for you from Paul Stannard, but one thing at a time. Right now, we're going to take a look at a beautiful 1976 Bultaco that was sent in to us by Randy Platchek. Randy Platchek is from West Cliff, Colorado. This is a picture of the bike before Randy got started on a beautiful restoration. I'm going to go through the pictures here, and we'll learn a little bit more about Randy's beautiful MK9. It is a 1976 Bultaco MK9 250 Persang. Although the Persang was not very successful on the national circuit in 1976, they were still popular with many amateur racers. The 1976 model was the first year for Bultacos being very serious at an attempt for long travel suspension. The 38-millimeter leading axle fork provided 9.5 inches of travel up front, and the remote reservoir gas Bader shocks give the bike 8.2 inches in the rear. I restored this matching numbers bike using all the original hardware, bodywork, wheels, chromoly bars, and suspension. The hubs were relined, the new brake shoes were trued, and the bearings and seals were replaced. The seat is NOS. It is a new old stock item that I had in my inventory. The paint is factory matched color. The engine was rebuilt using new old stock connecting rod kit, new bearings, seals, and a new Vintco piston. Thank you, Randy, for mentioning some of our sponsors in this segment. Bultaco collectors whom I have met love these old bikes for their clean, simple designs and rich racing heritage. I hope you enjoy it. Well, I enjoyed it very, very much, Randy Platchek. You did an absolutely beautiful job on it. As they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words. Randy Platchek's beautiful 1976 Bultaco MK9. I mentioned a little bit earlier that Paul Stannard and Preston Petty Products is running a special. It is for a Bultaco Blue front fender. Go over to PrestonPettyProducts.com. When you check out, use the code VMXQ&A front blue, and you will get $20 off. $20 off from now until Saturday night. Go to the Vintage Motocross Q&A page tomorrow, and you'll see another special there for a rear fender in blue for the Bultaco as well. Get a rear fender in blue for your Bultaco. You got $20 off on a front or a rear. That's happening from now until Saturday night. Okay? If you didn't get the message, send me a text. I'll get you the code again, and I'll be repeating it. Well, I'm not going to be repeating it anymore through the show. I'm too tired. I'm running out of breath over here. I am so happy Jeff Kokoski has returned from vacation with his family down in San Diego. Hey, Susie, do you have anything going on with the giveaway thing yet? Or you still haven't picked someone? You did?
I did. You want it now?
You know, I'm going to tell you why I want it now.
No. Why?
Because I need a break
Oh.
before doing Jeff Kokoski's segment. So, with that in mind, Susie, who is tonight's, what do you call it?
Viewer Appreciation Prize
Yeah.
goes to
Yes.
Kevin Caldwell.
Kevin Caldwell. What did he win? Show it.
He wins these grips courtesy.
Yeah.
Courtesy of
Yep.
Preston Petty Products. Go visit them online. It's PrestonPettyProducts.com.
Uh-huh.
And you will be getting a set of grips. Congratulations.
Kevin Caldwell. How about that, my brother? Been a long time since you got a new rubber, I bet. Anyway, grips coming to, it's a family show. Send me your mailing address, Kevin. I will get it to Paul Stannard. We will get you a new set of grips just like that. Compliments of Paul Stannard and Preston Petty Products. A moment ago, I was talking about Jeff Kokoski, and I'm really happy he has come back, returned from his trip to San Diego. In tonight's segment of Did You Know, brought to you by Jeff Kokoski, did you know about duct tape? And is it called duct tape, D-U-C-T, or duck as in quack quack? We're going to find out right now. Duct tape, we've all used it. We've used it to seal air boxes. We've used it around our helmets to keep mud out from behind our visors. NASCAR affectionately calls it 200-mile-per-hour tape, and it is known that even the Apollo crew, Apollo 13 astronauts, made it home after a near catastrophic incident on their way to the moon thanks to duct tape. And just like the Swiss Army knife, every do-it-yourselfer has a roll of duct tape in their toolbox or on their workbench. There's no doubt about that, Jeff. We certainly do. But did you know the history of duct tape? You might be surprised how far back in history it actually goes. For starters, let's talk about the name. Which is correct, D-U-C-K or D-U-C-T? The short answer is both. How about that? The first reference to duct tape occurred around 1900 when steel cables supporting the Manhattan Bridge were covered with linseed oil, then wrapped with long strips of plain, non-adhesive cotton duck cloth before being laid in place. The oil and the cloth covering protected the cables from corrosion. In the 1910s, non-adhesive duct tape was sewn into boots and shoes for reinforcement, and glue-backed or impregnated adhesive tape made the cloth soaked in rubber and zinc oxide. They were used in hospitals to bind wounds. In 1936, the U.S.-based insulated power cables engineers associated specific a wrapping of cloth duct tape as a method of protecting rubber-insulated power cables. The name duck came from the Dutch word, which actually means duke. It means linen cloth or linen canvas. The duck cloth or duck canvas is a heavy, plain woven cotton fabric that threads and makes a crisscross pattern. In 1943, this gorgeous creature you see here in this picture, Vesta Stout, was working at the Green River Ordnance Plant in Illinois when she noticed a flaw in the packing boxes. The boxes were sealed with a proper tape and a pull tab. With paper tape. Workers then dipped the entire box in wax to make it waterproof. But the paper tape was very thin and often tore off when soldiers attempted to open the box. Mrs. Stout realized that the soldiers might waste valuable time due to the missing pull tab, so she tried to convince her supervisors to make a different way of opening the tabs. Mrs. Stout realized the soldiers might be wasting tabs. She mentioned it to her superiors, but they unfortunately didn't take her word for it. So you know what she did? She wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt describing the problem and the solution. FDR was so impressed that he accepted the letter and accepted the idea. And the War Product Board in D.C. took the matter into their own hands. Here in this picture, we see actually duct tape where it was used in Apollo 13, which is how it got back to Earth at that time. Anyway, the board asked the Industrial Tape Corporation for Johnson & Johnson to get involved with Mrs. Stout's idea. The product, or within a couple of months rather, those ammo boxes were now being wrapped with that waterproof cloth back green colored tape. Really cool. That's a really, really great story. In fact, here's another little picture that Jeff sent us right here of how these astronauts had to patch up a fender while they were on the moon with their lunar rover. Anyway, when those soldiers and sailors in the Marines returned home from the war, they recognized the versatility of the tape and civilian demand. The product absolutely exploded. Manufacturers began producing the tape in a variety of colors. Gray quickly became the most popular for some reason, but the product universally became known as duct tape. Since then, the name has stuck, with no pun intended. In 1950, Melvin Anderson Company of Cleveland acquired the rights from Johnson & Johnson. In 1971, an American businessman, John Karl, bought the name from the Anderson Company. At one point, Manco controlled 40% of the duct tape business. At this time, today, nearly 2 billion rolls of duct tape are sold annually in the USA. 2 billion with a B. That's a lot of duct tape, Jeff. I want to thank you for sending in that really, really fun story. We get a kick out of that. We get a kick over the Loctite story that you sent in. Yeah, the Swiss Army knife was a good one as well, and all the other ones that do directly are directly associated with the motocross industry. But you know, duct tape is associated with it, and with a whole lot of other stuff as well. We are going to hear from, we're going to hear from our dear friend, Paul Parkinson, for a moment, and then we'll be back with some things from Paul Parkinson, Replica Motorcycle Parts. We've also got more coming up in this week in motocross history. So let's just take a little bit of a break here, and we'll be back in just a minute with some more Vintage Motocross Q&A. Oh boy. I am not, hang on guys, I'll be with you in a second. I will be there in a second, boys.
It's there. Take your time.
Yeah, I know it's here. No, it's not here. But you know what? I'm going to run this. You're going to enjoy it just the same. And we'll be right back with more Vintage Motocross Q&A in just a minute.
On tonight's Next Time Try, this segment, we're going to be talking about how to get a dent out of your pipe. This has been a topic on the show many, many times. We've often spoken about it, but I've never had the opportunity to make a video. We're going to get a closer look at some of the tools that we're going to be using to perform this little task. And yeah, it's really nothing more than this, which I'll give you a closer look at, and you'll understand how they work, and a bottle of MAP gas just like this. If you have a torch, that's always good too. So let's get a closer look, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, there are two caps that go on the end of the pipes, and they look just like this. This one will go on the back of your pipe where the stinger is. As you can see, the circumference of that piece of steel is a little bit narrower than it would be at the front. In between these two pieces of steel, the plate on the back and this circular piece, is a piece of rubber. When you put this thing on the pipe and you tighten up these three bolts, you're then going to tighten up these two bolts, and it's going to draw closer to the pipe and cause a seal between this piece of rubber. The piece that goes on the front, of course, at your header is a little bit bigger. They make these things quite large so they will fit a variety of different pipes, and basically it works the same way. The circular piece of steel, the 3 bolts, of course, the rubber that causes it to seal. Right here you'll see there's a little hole in there. The purpose of that is, of course, to get the air, which you're going to use from your compressor. You're going to get air into the pipe, and you have a little gauge right here. We'll talk more about the pressure in just a minute. But basically, that is what these 2 little caps are. That's how they work. Let's put them on the pipe, and we'll continue on from there. First thing you want to do is maybe run these bolts in a little bit, just so the end of your pipe, the stinger, fits in there. This way you can run them down comfortably and make sure it's tight. You also want to leave a little gap. In other words, you don't want to tighten these end bolts too much. You want to have a little gap in there so when you do tighten them, it presses down on the rubber, giving you a good seal. One thing I should have mentioned earlier too is you do want to make sure your pipe doesn't have any leaks in it. If there are any seams in your pipe that are cracked, you're going to want to make sure that you get those things sealed up so you don't have any leaks on the way. Now you can see there's a little gap right in there, so when I tighten these 2 bolts from the outside, we'll get a really good seal on the end of that pipe. Make sure everything is snug on here, especially these 3 bolts that go to the stinger. There's going to be some pressure in that pipe. It won't blow off. There's not going to be an explosion, but what will happen is it'll start to leak. You'll know right away because you'll be losing pressure. You'll see that from the gauge, plus you'll also probably be able to hear that. And here's the dent, by the way, that we're going to be working on. And we're going to do the same thing on this end. We'll run the bolts in a little bit. Tighten up these guys a little bit. And we should have a good seal there. We're going to add some air to the pipe. I bring it up to around 40 pounds. From there, you're going to take your torch and you're going to want to keep it toward the edge. Heat up the edge, in other words, of the dent first. You want to heat it up. You want to get it cherry red. Again, I'm only using MAP gas here, but it works really, really well. So I go around to the edge of my dent, and slowly, gradually, you'll see that the air pressure does bring up the dent in the pipe. Well, there it is. I hope you enjoyed our little demonstration. There's still a little smoke coming out of that thing. But anyway, you can see that the dent has been removed. Remember, about 40 pounds of air pressure. You want to keep that area cherry red when you're doing it. Check your pipes for leaks before you begin. If you do have a pinhole here or there, you just need to keep the air pressure at 40 pounds. If you could repair those little dents with some brazing, that would really be best. Then you don't have to play with the pressure too much. And I did it all with these 2 pieces like this and a little MAP gas. So next time you get a dent in a pipe and you want to try and take it out and make it look a little more presentable, try that.
All right, guess what? I actually found the video that I wanted to show you just a moment ago, the one from Paul Parkinson Sr., where he was out on the road. And what I'm going to do is show it to you right now.
Hi, I'm Paul Parkinson with Replica Motorcycle Parts. I'm sitting here with our test bike, which is ridden by Jerry Maddox. Here's the #1 plate in the US. Let's go over a couple of the parts that we've got on here. We've got our ignition cover with the case saver built into it, so that when the chain comes off, you're not damaging your cases. Spacer, foot pegs. Jerry runs our air box. Seat brackets, keeps the seat on tight so he doesn't fall off when he's going over the whoops. And then on this side, Jerry runs a couple little things, a lot of little rubber parts on the bike, and that stuff are all done by us. And then down here we've got our brake pedal, which has got needle bearings in there, and then it's got a wider toe peg, so it gives them a real nice, clean, easy to use brake. And then this is our latest part. This is a CR250 type knuckle. In fact, Honda used them on the last versions of the MR175s, and this is a real trick aluminum Kickstarter arm. So that gives them lightweight, strength, and reliability more than anything else. Reliability.
Thank you, Paul Parkinson. I know you're out there in mid-Ohio this weekend, and that is, well, that's a tough gig, mid-Ohio. It's 3-4 days by the time you drive out there, by the time you set everything up, and there are just so many people out there at mid-Ohio. But I know Paul Parkinson Sr. is out there with all of his products from replicamotorcycleparts.com. And you know what? I'm going to say this. You know what? I'm just going to take a minute here. We have some great vendors here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Vinco, we've had Mark Hildebrand in the past, Paul Stannard, Preston Petty Products. These guys put an incredible amount of not only time, but a huge amount of money into having these products made. Years ago, I heard that molds for fenders were between $6,000 and $9,000 for one mold. You got to sell a lot of fenders at $50, $60 a piece to make that kind of money back. But these guys do it. Why am I talking about this? Paul Stannard doesn't pay somebody to make a mold and then recoup all that. He is hands-on with making these 3D parts. This is what this guy does. He has made some incredible parts, has made life absolutely unbelievably simple for people who have Honda CR125 and 250s by coming up with this beautiful replica of the silencer. He's also got another thing out there. Look at this. Kickstarter knuckles for the 74, 75, CR125, and 250. The top of the airbox for the KX400s. He's got the chain guides for the CR250. He's got the countershaft sprocket cover for your Kawasaki KX400, a KX125 chain guide. You will never see one of these new again because they were made of nylon, and this is an absolutely perfect replica. I can't say enough great things, and I kind of hate that expression because kids use it every week when they talk about their sponsors at Supercross. I can't say enough good things, but I truly can't say enough good things about Paul Parkinson Sr. and what he has done and what he has invested in this great sport of ours. Paul Parkinson, I hope you knock it out of the park this weekend out there in mid-Ohio. Give me a call when you get back. I want to know about more of your products and what we're going to have coming up in the not-too-distant future. Let's move on and get to the, we're going to get to the This Week in Motocross History. Okay, Suze? Because we gave away the grips, we're going to go to This Week in Motocross History, brought to you by Racer X. 1972, Håkan Andersson won the Inter Am at Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Yes, I know this isn't a picture of Håkan Andersson. The top American, Jimmy Weinert, finished right behind him. And because this race overlapped with the nascent AMA 250 Pro Motocross Championship, it went down in the record books as Weinert's first win. He would go on to become a two-time AMA 500cc motocross champion, as well as a 1976 AMA Supercross champion. He is in the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame. As for the Swedish rider Andersson, he would help reshape the motocross world just 1 year later when he won the 250cc FIM World Championship aboard the prototype monoshock Yamaha. Yeah, if there's a Sweden Hall of Fame, he's probably in that one too. Here's a picture I absolutely love. It has nothing to do with guys riding bikes, but it's two of my favorite people in the world. And the picture was taken by Scott Hybrink, 1977, at the Cycle World USA in St. Peters, Missouri. Team Honda's Marty Smith and Tommy Croft finished first and second overall, with Smith posting a 1-2 tally. Kawasaki rider Gary Semix won the second moto, but was only 16th in the first. Smith's title rival, Bob Hanna, had a mixed day on his Yamaha, going 13-1. I love this picture of Marty and Tommy, taken by Scott Hybrink at Anaheim 1. I think it was, it'd have to be 2019. 1978, Team Yamaha's Brock Glover, the reigning AMA 125 national champion, dominated the Valvoline 125cc U.S. Grand Prix of Motocross in Mid-Ohio. Belgium's Gerard Ronde finished second overall on the LOP, or LOP Suzuki Mounted Privateer. Marty Motes and Mark Gregson was third and fourth, respectively. The race was somewhat overshadowed by the absence of the Russian and Czech riders after a dust-up between the old USSR and the U.S. government over the treatment of journalists and Russian dissidents. Interesting how politics comes into play many times in the motocross world. I've heard some great stories about Falta and Jim Pomeroy being abroad, and of course Brad Lackey being in Czechoslovakia and Russia. That about wraps it up for this week's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. If you do want to become a show supporter, please contact me. We'll get you a shirt. We'll get your name up on the board. It's just $49.95. It's a one-time thing. If you want to go on, continuing giving us a couple of bucks a month, that would be great as well. Don't forget the Pomeroy Memorial Motocross race is coming up August 10th and 11th. And for you guys down in Tennessee, we got the Vintage National, MX and cross country. That is August 9th, 10th, and 11th. That wraps it up for Vintage Motocross Q&A. Let me see. Gina, come on, boy. Oh, there he is. All right, Gene. That wraps it up for this week's episode of Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you for everyone who watched. Congratulations to Kevin Caldwell. Congratulations. Thanks for playing along. We'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget to look at the page tomorrow to find out about the back fender special for tacos from Paul Stainer.